What's up, True Crime World? You are here with Luminol on the Wall. I'm Bevy.
And I'm Becky.
And hello, sister.
Yes.
Sister Fran.
Sister Fran. What's up, Bev? How you doing?
Not much. I'm doing great. Good.
Living.
Living the dream, baby. Living the dream.
Glad to hear that.
All right, so let's just get into our sister chat because I watched The Marvels last night. Have you watched The Marvels, Rebecca?
No. Is it a series? Is it a movie?
It's a movie. It's like the second one to Captain Marvel.
Oh, I see. And did you like it?
Yeah, I did. I think fans didn't like it, Craig was saying. If anyone doesn't know, Craig, my husband, is I don't know, he loves movies. He loves looking at what the critics say and knowing what a movie is rated, shit like that. So apparently, fans did not like it very much, but the audience liked it, and I liked it quite a bit. So did Craig. We're like, why did no one like this movie, or why did not none of the fans like the movie?
Did he explain why none of the fans? Because Craig looks into that stuff all the time.
No, he didn't. It was late at night, you know.
Right.
After the baby had gone to bed, before we had gone to bed.
When I come over sometime this week, I'll be like, hey, Craig, tell me why you liked the movie, but tell me why the fans hated it. And he'll be like, well,
yeah,
let me enlighten you, Becky.
Surely he'll happen to have an answer for you.
If he doesn't, he's getting body slammed.
There you go. I'm gonna body slam that bitch.
That's right. I go to Craig for things I don't know about and don't care to research myself.
That's right.
So if he can't tell me, that's an issue.
Yeah. You're just gonna remain unknowing.
Exactly. I do that to him with current events too, sometimes.
Oh, I've noticed.
Craig, I read this. What does this mean?
Oh my god, that's what you do? I thought you knew all about it, and we're oh my god, you guys. When Becky comes over to my house, it's like she's just hanging out with Craig. The moment Craig comes home, it's just like Becky and Craig are chilling, and I'm just like the third wheel. They're talking about current events. They're talking about wrestling. They're talking about God knows what. And I'm just like, OMG, bored out of my mind, trying to engage in this stupid ass conversation.
No, she doesn't engage at all. She just peers over their island, staring, because, Bev's short as a shrimp. And she just peers over with her beady little eyes, like, what are they talking about? No, hey, back to cooking, back to making popcorn. You just see her pop her head over the counter every once in a while. And then we'll be like, right, Bev? And she'll be like, sorry, what? I wasn't listening. She straight up says that.
Well, I'm like, yeah, I'm not.
But
I'm kind of half thank God Becky's here to talk about this stuff with him. But then also, I said to him after you left the last time, I said, do you like my sister better than me?
What did he say?
I don't know, actually.
Knowing Craig, he was probably like, no. And then
he probably just reassured how much he loves me, or he asked me, why would you ask me that?
That's actually a very great question and a good one. We just have different conversations. That's all.
I just think last week specifically, when Becky was here, my baby was obsessed with her. Literally, she made him cackle laugh, and he's never done that before.
Yeah.
And he laid on her shoulder while she rocked him to and fro, just in the kitchen randomly, he wasn't even tired.
Yeah.
And then she had these in-depth conversations with Craig about working out.
Yeah.
And current events, of course.
Of course.
And I was just like, wow, I'm a loser.
Maybe you should read more, Bev. Be more diverse in your communications.
That's literally what I thought. I'm like, wow, boring Bev. That should be my nickname.
However, the week before, though, we totally ganged up on Craig.
True.
When we watched Freak Your Fright, we totally went sisters on his butt. That sounds weird, but we totally ganged up and made fun of him all night. And he was like, wow, I feel loved. And be like, haha. So you see, it's just the chorus the natural course of how our hangouts go.
Yeah, it totally is. So I got over it pretty quick, but I was a little butthurt for a second there.
Do you like my sister more?
Yeah. Well,
Oh, Bevy.
I mean, yeah, I spent the night alone. Just kidding.
And
I'm
yet
just
with
kidding.
the best company.
That's dramatic. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Bevy.
So
aren't you funny?
there
I
it
love that
is.
you can admit that stuff, though. You're not like, you don't like scroll it away and be like, oh my God, now I'm insecure. You're just like, quick question. It's not a big thing, but just, I need to just get it off my chest. Just in case.
Like my sister more than me.
Obviously not. He loves you. But we're friends. And you should be so lucky to have your best friend, aka me, your sister, and your husband get along so well.
No, I am, honestly. Like I said, half of me was also thinking, like, thank God she's here to talk about this stuff with him.
You're like, I can just do what I want.
probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can just chill out. I don't have to, like, listen all night to, like, stuff I don't really care about.
See?
But yeah.
I'm your, like, mediator to boring topics.
You know what? If I were to think of this in a positive way, because I could, here it is, okay? I am what each of you need. I am the different one that you guys rely on to provide different energy, different humor, different perspectives, because you and Craig do think a lot alike and are a lot alike, actually. You movie reference shit, you talk about that current event stuff, and you know, you work out, you guys both interested in how the body works, things like that. And so you guys need me. I'm just gonna say it right here. And yeah,
you're 100% right. We need you to break up the conversation, because at some point I'm sure we each get bored of it.
Oh, okay.
I'm kidding. Like, we don't.
I don't even. Becky was like, her face, if you guys saw it, was like, I just said that to be nice.
But you bring a lot of humor to our lives, and you do break up a more serious conversation and intellectual conversation with really great, slight, violent humor.
Yes, that's right.
And we totally love that about you.
Anyways, shall we get into it, Becky?
Yeah, let's do it, Bev. All right, today we are talking about Barry and Honey Sherman. They were a prominent Canadian couple from Toronto whose lives were extraordinary as their deaths were. So who was Barry Sherman? Well, he was a self-made billionaire in the pharmaceutical industry. He founded a company called Apotex in 1974 and built it into Canada's largest generic drug maker. He originally was an engineering prodigy. Barry started university at 16 and earned a PhD in astrophysics at MIT. But he ultimately made his mark in business. Now, Honey Sherman was born in an Austrian displaced persons camp after World War II. She was the daughter of a Polish-Jewish Holocaust survivors who moved to Canada shortly after Honey was born. Now, Honey and Barry met in 1970. Barry was introduced to Honey while she was volunteering at a Toronto hospital, and they instantly clicked, and they married not too long after that in 1971. Together, they had 4 children, 1 son, Jonathan, and 3 daughters, Lauren, Alexandra, and Kaylin. Barry and Honey were also well-known philanthropists. The couple gave away tens of millions of dollars to charities, hospitals, universities, and Jewish causes. For example, their foundation donated $50 million to the United Jewish Appeal and funded major hospital and community center expansions. Now, by the time of Barry's death, Forbes estimated his net worth between 3 and 4 billion. Although I read other sources, Bevy, that said he was worth anywhere from 5 to 10 billion dollars. Either way, this made the Shermans amongst the wealthiest people in Canada.
No kidding. That's a shit ton of money right there.
I can't even fathom, like, having that much money. Like, I don't even know, Bev. What would I even spend it on? There's the obvious, like, house and cars, vacations. But other than that, you just buying great cheeses, good meats.
I mean, honestly, probably you would do that. But I have no doubt in my mind, Becky, that you would be as generous as Barry and Honey.
Oh, thank you. I would like to think I would be too.
And you'd give it away.
A good chunk of it, yes. Wow. I sound so bad. A good chunk of it, yes.
But the rest, for me.
For me. It's just because it's hard to even just put into words like how much money that really is. Like, I understand the math behind it, but like, I don't think I could even spend $1 billion in a damn lifetime, and they're billionaires.
I think you would gain a different perspective if you were a billionaire, right? Like, if you're a billionaire and you know you have that much money, like, you'd be thinking about way different things than we think about. You know, your dreams would just get bigger. Your desire for material things would just get stronger because, like, you can do it. It's like, why not get a yacht? Why not get a yacht and sail the sea? You know what I mean? Like, when we were in Vancouver, Craig and I, we saw this massive yacht docked at the pier. Holy crap, Becky.
I bet it's so nice inside. It was
nuts. Yeah, and I think I just realized, like, how much it actually costs, not just for, like, maintenance, but for the gas and everything on the yacht.
Staff?
So, like,
the
staff, Becky. Totally. And, so I guess you just do that, or you'd buy a private jet and, like, you know, fly wherever the fuck you want. Like, those are the things you'd be thinking about. Why not go to Bali this weekend for 3 days? Why not? It's like,
takes like almost 3 days to get there.
Whatever.
I mean, on a direct flight, if you had a private jet, maybe it wouldn't. Who knows? Maybe the opportunities are endless then.
Yeah.
Clearly, we need to just get a billionaire mindset, I think, Bev, and then we'll just make billions.
Yeah, well, I think there's something to be said about us not having, like, that, like, imagination to even be able to know what we would get with billions of dollars. You know what I mean? Like, maybe our mindset is pummeling us further into poverty. It's like, I don't know what I'd do with $1. No, just kidding.
This is where we're going to manifest $1 billion.
Right?
Yes. Let's
do
it.
But I'm just wondering if, like, our mindset is, like, we're small-minded in terms of, like, spending money.
Yeah, we're like average Joes. Like, let's save for retirement, make sure we have health benefits, you know, make sure our cars are working, you know, that's our like middle class.
That's where we're at right now.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's okay.
We're average Joes.
But again, I'd like to reiterate that even if we did have a billionaire mindset, surely we'd be generous.
I think we would.
Surely.
We're generous people in general. So
there you go.
We can feel good about ourselves going forward. I like that. All right. Well, the people who knew Barry and Honey outside as like friends, family, they would describe Barry as a frugal workaholic and Honey as outgoing and social. Barry would stay behind reading papers on ski weekends while Honey and the kids hit the slopes or the sales. They liked to shop a little bit. For example, Honey once gifted Barry a new sports car on his 50th birthday, but he refused it and told her to take it back. He was totally content with his everyday kind of beater of a car. He took care of it, but didn't feel the need to have this brand new, beautiful car. So in short, they were a fairly private couple by fortune, but public in their giving and social life. And everyone saw them as pillars of Toronto's business and charity world. So that's a little bit about Honey and Barry. So let's walk through the last days before their deaths. In mid-December of 2017, the Shermans were busy planning their future. They had just listed their Toronto mansion on Old Colony Road for sale and were designing a new $30 million, 16,000 square foot dream home in the community of Forest Hill. This was a little closer to the city and amongst other business partners and the wealthiest people in Toronto. On December 13th, Barry and Honey were seen together at Apotex headquarters reviewing blueprints for their new home. That evening around 8:30, Barry sent a work email to employees about a new drug they were working on, which was pretty standard as we know he was a bit of a workaholic. But after that, it was radio silence. And this was unusual for Barry. It's said that he suffered from insomnia and often used that time awake to just keep working. So it was very common for employees to wake up to tons of emails and ideas that he had. Now, this email from Barry at 8:30, it was the last time that anyone heard from the Shermans. The next day, December 14th, Barry did not show up for work. This was highly unusual. However, people figured he was probably just running errands on his own schedule and didn't tell anyone. That same day, no one heard from Honey either. However, she was set to leave for a trip to Florida within the next day, and so people just assumed she was getting ready for that trip. The following week, Barry was set to meet her in Florida as well. So when they didn't hear from the couple, no one was alarmed. They just assumed they had things to do. However, everything changed on December 15th. And as I said before, we know that Barry and Honey were selling their home. And their real estate agent, Elise Stern, arrived at the Sherman home with prospective buyers and their realtor. This was around 10:30 a.m. At the time, it was expected that no one other than the housekeeper and repairman would be there. During the tour, Elise noticed that some of the artwork she had asked to be removed was still there. Specifically, Barry and Honey had these two eclectic mannequins that were made of recycled items sitting on some speakers. She had asked for them to be removed because they just weren't everyone's taste, and some people may find them a little creepy.
Yeah, and honestly, like the smallest details can make someone uninterested in a home, even if they have like no relevance to, I don't know, the house itself or what it would look like if they owned it.
Exactly. Hence why staging is sometimes so important.
Mm-hmm.
So Elise also noticed that there was a bit of a mess in the garage and just outside the door. And this just wasn't like Honey and Barry. They were meticulous. They had housekeepers. It just seemed something was kind of off. Then when the house tour moved to the basement to see the underground pool and hot tub, something shocking happened. They initially thought there were two more mannequins that had been placed near the pool railing at the other end of the pool from the door as just a prank, or some more suspicious artwork. They thought it was kind of weird, but they came to see what they saw, and then they all went back upstairs. And the potential buyers left.
Oh, God.
Elise and the Shermans' housekeeper discussed what Elise had seen. Now, in that conversation, the housekeeper had mentioned that she had found Honey's iPhone lying on the floor in one of the half bathrooms that was on the main floor. She found this really weird because Honey never actually used that bathroom. What was also weird about that morning is that earlier, Honey and Barry's personal trainer showed up around 8:25 for their workout. He waited around, but there was no sign of them. And this was really unusual. They would never be out of touch if they had made other plans. You know, they just wouldn't just no-show their trainer because that's like a sin.
Right. They're responsible people and they're like have integrity.
Respectful of other people's
and
time.
Responsible. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Weird.
Yeah. So after the trainer waited around for a bit, he ended up just leaving, you know, because what else is he going to do?
Like
Just
there's
stand
no one there for you to do your job with.
Yeah. Might as well move on to your next client. So the housekeeper and Elise debate if they should go back down to the pool to check out these mannequins.
Yes, I think so, Becky.
Right? I don't know if they were kind of scared and had a weird feeling about it, so they didn't, but they kind of seemed to just be waiting around. And that wasn't until the Sherman's gardener showed up, and she actually agreed to go check out the pool.
Yeah, they must have been scared, right? Because let's be real, what are the chances that the Shermans just decided to randomly put two more mannequins down by that pool that they knew were more of an eclectic style and should have taken the other two out that were upstairs? Like, what are the odds that they would be just like pulling a prank? Ha ha ha. Like, no, right? Obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously, Elise is like, oh my God. Like,
yeah.
She must be putting like the puzzle pieces together. Like, did I just see bodies? Right?
Yeah.
And I gotta give it to the gardener, like, brave.
Brave. Very brave. I would give that to her as well. Now, before I get into what she actually saw, the people that were viewing the house, when they actually went downstairs, it sounded like it was a really quick, like, oh, let's go back upstairs. Okay, you saw the pool, let's go. They actually
Mm-hmm.
just thought that the owners were down there doing maybe some weird yoga, and they just left to not interrupt them. But it was all weird for everyone. So kind of everyone had a different like perspective of what was going on. But either way, it was weird for everyone involved.
Right.
So when the gardener went down into the pool, she realized that, as we kind of predicted, they were not mannequins. It was, in fact,
Yeah.
Barry and Honey Sherman. They were positioned in a semi-sitting position at the end of the pool. Now, this pool, Bev, it's like a lane pool for like doing laps. So the room is really
Mhm.
long, right? So they walk in at one
Okay.
end and all these railings are on the other end where you would enter the pool by the stairs.
Okay.
So as I said, they were positioned in a semi-sitting position at the end of the pool. They each had a belt wrapped around their neck. The other end was tied to the pool handrail. So they were hung there. But because it's only, 3-4 feet off the ground, it's not a full body length. So they were just kind of hanging there, but seated.
Well, I can see why everyone was kind of confused. It's not like there was just like dead bodies that are laying on the ground, like they're almost upright, right?
Yeah, were they just hanging out with their feet in the hot tub? I don't know.
Yeah. Oof. That's terrible.
It's terrible. Now, interesting enough, they were both kind of positioned with their right leg crossed over their left leg. They both still had their winter jackets on, although they seemed like they were kind of falling off by that point. Honey had a visible injury on her face, but there was no blood. There was only a little smudge of blood on the one hand railing. They were both cold to touch, and rigor mortis had already begun. So obviously this trio decided that they need to call the police right away. When the police first got there, they noticed there was no signs of forced entry. Now, you think this would be weird with like a billionaire's home, because I personally would think that I would have a crazy security system, alarm, all that stuff. But the Shermans really just didn't believe in that. They kind of had the view that if someone's going to rob them, they're going to rob them. However, they were a little lackadaisy and they often would leave their basement door unlocked. They did have an alarm system, but at the time it wasn't on, and when the housekeeper got there, it was also off. They also had a window that had been left open because they had been doing some painting in one of the rooms, and so it was left to air out the fumes. The police had also found Barry's BlackBerry and some papers in the hallway, like I said, near the door coming from their underground garage.
Now, Becky, let's just quickly clarify. A BlackBerry is a cell phone. If you are not from our generation, you might not know that. Like, I don't even know.
Yeah.
But either way, it's a cell phone. So they found Barry's cell phone.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of funny. Who used a BlackBerry in 2017? Like, no one. Did you have a BlackBerry? Because I did.
Yeah, I did. I for sure did.
The white pearl one that came out, I was like, to die for. And
I think I had a red one.
Oh, I think you did. Those rolly things were the biggest piece of crap ever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they faded. Their popularity
They totally
faded.
were.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, good call. That is what a BlackBerry is, just a cell phone. I think it was designed or catered to the business class or business professionals is what I remember.
Oh, yeah, it totally was.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense, actually.
Mm-hmm. Now,
so, sorry, his cell phone and some papers are found in the hallway near the door coming from their underground garage.
Yes, which is weird. So both of their cell phones were just found on the ground somewhere random in their
throughout
house.
the house.
Yeah. So because of the affluent neighborhood that they lived in, it was really rare to have any presence of police. And so this caught wind immediately with reporters, news crews, and they were outside of the home almost as fast as the police.
Wow.
Rather quickly, the police actually made a statement to the media that they believed this was a murder-suicide. And everyone took that information and ran with it. It was all over newspapers, the internet. That's what people thought had happened.
That's kind of bizarre that the police would make that statement. Just based on the details of how the bodies were found and whatnot, it doesn't, like, the only way that I could see that being possible would be like if there was a third party involved.
Right. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Just because, like, of how their bodies were placed, like, usually, like, if they were both in the same position and everything, like, maybe, like, I don't know, it just seems like a weird thing for someone who's going to murder their spouse and then commit suicide. It's very weird to place your body and almost stage the scene in that way.
For sure.
So I'm interested. I'll be very interested to hear more on that because right now that just seems odd to me.
Yeah, I totally get that, Beth. So within a day or so, the autopsies had confirmed that both Barry and Honey died of ligature neck compression, meaning they were strangled. The chief pathologist said the manner of death was undetermined, considering possibilities that Barry had murdered Honey and then himself, or a double homicide.
Right, which to me, obviously, the latter seems more plausible in my eyes.
Me too. Considering they died of strangulation, I do not see how that would have been possible as a murder-suicide unless maybe someone was literally hanging from somewhere. Because keep in mind, they were only like 3 feet off where the belt was tied. It was only 3 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
Like you would have, if Barry had wanted to strangle himself, he would have had to put in a lot of effort to actually.
It just seems tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Shermans' 4 children refused to believe that this was anything other than a double murder. And within days of their parents' death, they hired attorney Brian Greenspan and assembled an independent team, retired homicide detective Tom Klett, and forensic pathologist Dr. David Chasen among them. These private investigators re-examined the evidence. They did their own autopsies. They found, for instance, that both Barry and Honey had marks on their wrists consistent with having been zip-tied at some point. So they were restrained. They also believed that they had been strangled with something narrower than the belts that were found around their necks. They also determined that there are no foreign drugs in their system, just to rule that out. Now, by mid-2018, the family's pathologist publicly stated that Honey likely died elsewhere in the house and had been dragged to the pool area, which fit the autopsy findings, and there were scuff marks on the pool floor.
Now, Becky, I'm hoping you know the answer to this, but the autopsy findings that supported that narrative was on her body physically. Do you know what the findings were that they felt supported that theory?
One, the fact that there was no blood at the scene when she had been injured on the face, and just the scuff marks on her clothes and shoes and then on the floor. So it wasn't just evidence on her body, it was the whole scene. So
okay, perfect. But also it makes sense if she had a cut on her face and there's no blood, that that's good to know. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. They also did point out, though, that injury, because of the lack of blood, because they did not find any more blood anywhere in the house, that injury could have been done post-mortem after she died.
Right.
So a little bit of unanswered questions there.
Okay. Yeah, so realistically, it's more of the scene and then potentially some of the blood evidence findings.
Exactly. So the hard part about this investigation, Bev, is that it took forever. And there's many factors that we will get into down the road. So I'm going to kind of jump to 2019. It's the end of 2018, beginning of 2019. The Toronto police confirmed that the family's detective had completed his probe and turned over their findings to them. So they assisted the Toronto police. Now, they didn't have many answers, but the police reassured the public and the family that they still considered the case active and continued to seek public tips and evidence. Now, with this existence of both investigations, the police and then the family-funded investigation, it raised a lot of tensions. The family publicly complained that law enforcement had missed or mishandled evidence, and they reiterated their belief that the deaths were a homicide and almost were disappointed that the police had jumped to the conclusion and spoke early that it could have been a murder-suicide when it wasn't.
Right. That makes a lot of sense to me, because that was like honestly the first thing I picked up on was like, why would they even say that considering the crime scene, right? So makes sense why the family too would be like frustrated with that.
For sure, because it really put a different light on the family and the relationship between Barry and Honey, right? And it created this narrative that just wasn't true.
Mm-hmm.
So at least the Toronto police did not publicly dispute any of the facts of the family's investigators. In fact, if they hadn't done that, the police would not have ruled out the suicide theory.
Which I'm guessing they did.
They ended up doing that because of the private investigation of the Sherman family.
Good.
So on January 26th, 2018, 6 weeks after the Shermans were found dead in their home, the police formally ruled out murder-suicide and confirmed it had been a targeted, deliberate double murder. They came out and said that this delay was due in part to the time needed to search the 12,000 square foot mansion and collect evidence, which included the scene, the phones, but also Barry's company files, electronic devices, and it required extra legal work to get all that stuff. So that's why it took so much longer. By that time, though, there was significant criticism about how the investigation was handled. A Toronto Star editorial complained that the police had dropped the ball from the start. And here's some more examples of that. Witnesses reported that neighbors' security camera filmed a person at the Shermans' home on the night of the killings. But this lead was apparently overlooked initially. Critics said the police took too long to collect DNA and fingerprints, and they followed dead-end leads first. The family's lawyer said the police didn't share enough information and were too slow to identify any suspects. However, this is where the friction really comes in because the police maintained that they were methodically reviewing all the leads, at one point obtaining over 50 officers, 2,000 hours of video from neighbors, and dozens of search warrants. Now, although they were criticized, the worst part about all of this, or this whole case, is that there just wasn't a lot of evidence either way. Now, the question is, was there no evidence or little evidence because there just wasn't evidence? Or was it because the police did a poor job of handling the scene? For example, the housekeeper was allowed to keep doing her job in the house because they had assumed it was a murder-suicide. So the collection of evidence wasn't treated how a homicide would have been right away. So
yeah, they're like, we already know who done it. So like, we don't need all that, really.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah. Oh, you cleaned the last 2 days? No problem. So that's what makes this case really tough.
I think that there must be like a flaw in protocol there just a little bit, because even if it was a murder-suicide, you would think that they would still quarantine the crime scene in general until they were made clear, because they still need evidence to prove that in court, right? So it makes zero sense to contaminate the crime scene by having a housekeeper clean it up. That makes no sense at all. And I just feel like they might have made an error with that. Like someone wasn't thinking straight.
Yeah, exactly. And I do not think anyone did this maliciously. It's like they just dropped the ball. Because as we've talked about several times, better to treat a crime scene as like the worst case scenario, like a murder, double homicide, and then find out later that, oh, maybe it was like a murder suicide, right?
Yeah.
Better to have the evidence and not need it than to not have it and need it.
Yeah, totally.
So, as I said, this case is just tough because there's just not a lot of evidence. Over the next few years, police executed more warrants on electronics, Apotex electronics and finances, warrants on other business ventures of Barry's, just in hopes to try and get some answers. There were also warrants for overseas, although I'm not sure for what or who, so that's kind of hard, but there were warrants. But because they have no suspects, they have no evidence, over the years, there were countless theories that have been proposed about who might be responsible. Now, we know Barry was a workaholic, and he was a
billionaire.
He was a shrewd businessman. He loved his family and friends hard, but in business, cutthroat. And through his ventures, he made a lot of enemies. He had joked years earlier that if any rival wanted him dead, it would be for $1,000, and they could hire someone just to do it. There were pharmaceutical companies he had sued, competitors in generic drugs, or criminals with grudges, all came under scrutiny. There were conspiracy theories that even suggested industry revenge or political motives. For example, false rumors claimed foreign relief organizations were involved. However, some experts noted that in pharma disputes, it is far more common to resolve differences in court than with violence. You know, like, oh, you stole that drug from me. I'm going to sue your ass for $500 million.
Yeah, it's like they're all probably pretty wealthy. It's like pharmaceutical companies are, wealthy.
Exactly.
So why wouldn't you do it in court instead of like hiring someone to do your dirty work? That seems kind of
silly, right?
Doesn't fit really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, like, you have a lot more at stake, like billions of dollars. If you killed someone, you'd lose all that, right?
However, that being said, now we have like a little bit of contradiction with some of the theories that are out there, because we have people saying, oh, pharmaceutical companies do this in court, not using violence. We have Barry's own words saying that, like, if he were to go missing, like, someone would have hired someone for $1,000. But then we also have all of these theories about people with grudges within, like, his company. So, I mean, the people's theories all contradict each other a little bit.
Exactly. And I also think that these are kind of the common things you would look out for, like a disgruntled employee, a disgruntled competitor, right? They're just like classic things you would look out for.
Right. And so I can see why the police like really had it out, like had a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
Even though they did make an error, as we pointed out, like, this is a lot to go through.
Yeah.
Could you imagine trying to find someone with a motive?
Like, what if it was someone international? Like, my God.
Yeah, that would be so rough.
And as we've seen in the news, people with lots of money get away with a lot of things.
Pedophilia. Just kidding. Not.
She went there.
I went there.
But
like, yeah,
it's true.
You can pay your way out of a lot of shit.
Yeah, you can buy lawyers, you can buy judges, you can buy a lot of people when you're that fucking rich.
Yeah, you could also blackmail the shit out of people, I'm sure.
Yeah, that is so true. So it does make it really complicated, because if someone's like whole world is wrapped up in this issue and they're being blackmailed, they ain't gonna say shit. Mm-hmm. They're gonna cover their tracks. They're gonna pay whoever they need off. They're gonna kill whoever they need. I'm not saying that actually happened in this specific circumstance. I'm just saying that's how it can go down. Right?
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm picking up what you're putting down, girl.
Thank God. Okay, so on top of the potential business crime ring that may or may not be a thing, inside the Sherman family, there has also been some really painful drama. At least one sister publicly accused her brother Jonathan of involvement in the death of her parents. He obviously vehemently denies. Jonathan Sherman even pointed out that 2 weeks before the murders, his father had asked to be repaid a $50 million loan that he had given his son. Jonathan said this debt was legitimate, and he refuted rumors that he would have killed his dad so that he wouldn't have to pay him back. This was for a business venture, keep in mind, and Jonathan did have a business partner. Now, that rift adds another tragic layer to this mystery. Other names that have come up include a cousin named Carrie Winter. In 2011, the Winter children, Barry Sherman's cousins, launched a lawsuit against him, claiming they were owed royalties to his share of Apotex. Now, you see, in 1967, so we're jumping back, after completing his PhD, Barry Sherman purchased Empire Laboratories from the executor of the estate of Louis Lloyd Winter, so his uncle, and his wife Beverly. The Winters had died just 17 days apart in November of 1965, leaving behind 4 young orphan children, Paul Timothy, Jeffrey Andrew, Carrie Joel Dexter, and Dana Charles. Empire had been the first company in Canada to obtain compulsory rights to manufacture Hoffmann La Roche's Valium diazepam. It was also one of the country's largest producers of Pfizer and the sweetener saccharin. I think I said that right. So the Winters estate allowed Barry to acquire a majority stake in Empire and take over operations under several conditions. And that was that the 4 Winter children were to be given the opportunity to work for the company once they turned 21. And 2 years later, each could purchase a 5% stake in the company. The estate also required 15-year royalties on 4 patented products. The condition was that the entire agreement would be void if Barry ever sold Empire. Now, that agreement was voided because in 1969, Barry arranged a share swap deal with Empire's largest customer, effectively transferring control of the company. So that means that the Winters' 4 kids would not be able to get a job there. They couldn't buy stakes in the company, right?
Yeah.
With that decision, it ultimately propelled him forward in his business ventures. Ultimately, by 2016, Barry's company Apotex had grown into one of Canada's largest pharmaceutical producers. It employed more than 10,000 people, and it offered over 260 products in more than 115 countries, generating approximately $1.5 billion in annual revenue. So, the Winters took him to court, and they argued that Barry had used money from the 1972 sale of Empire Laboratories, a business that was originally tied to their family, to start Apotex in 1973, and therefore they were entitled to a 20% stake in the company, or $1 billion in damages. In response to this lawsuit, Barry cut them off financially because he had been supporting them ever since he sold that company.
Okay. I was literally going to say it's kind of a dick move to like sell the company and then just kind of screw over your cousins.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I was kind of thinking that kind of is a shitty thing to kind of do.
Yeah.
So I was thinking of what you said earlier about him being kind of a savage businessman. But to provide for them, I'm like, wow, that's actually the kind thing to do then.
Yeah.
Like he realized what they were losing and tried to like compensate for that. And I think that says a lot. So I'm shocked they even took him to court over that.
I know, right? Now, I'll try and make this quick, but a little backstory about the Winters children. A couple of them, so when their parents died, they were adopted by a Jewish family because their mom, that's what she wanted. They provided for them. They lived a decent life, but as they got older, a few of them ended up having major drug problems. And when this happened, this is kind of when Barry stepped in. He paid for homes for them to live in, vehicles. He paid for several rehab stints. So he had a lot of compassion for his family and did what he could to take care of them. So, and then he provided them like monthly support, and they virtually needed for nothing. So then,
wow,
to go after him for a large amount of money or a huge stake in his company seems outrageous. Also, I would be mortified if they got granted. If I was Barry, I'd be mortified if they got granted that 20% stake in the company because they don't have the most responsible track record either. I'd be like, oh, well, yeah. Hell no. So,
and not only that is like the original agreement was that they could buy 5% of Empire, right? They weren't even just given it for free. They had to buy into it.
Yeah.
So to just freely get a company that, or 20% of a company that Barry worked so hard for, is ludicrous. Obviously, they were not granted this. I'm guessing.
You are correct.
But
go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say I'm jumping ahead, but
that's okay because I'm getting to it. In September of 2017, an Ontario Superior Court judge dismissed the cousins' case, calling their claims wishful thinking and beyond fanciful. The Winters were also instructed to pay Barry's legal fees, which was approximately $8 million.
Holy crap. So they stood to lose a lot in that, the outcome of that lawsuit.
Exactly. Yeah. And interesting enough, only a few months later is when Barry and Honey were found dead.
So is that purely a coincidence or is it a motive for murder?
That is the question, Bevy. Now, Carrie Winters also, this adds just like another level of complexity to that question. Carrie Winter admitted to a psychiatrist and in other interviews that he had fantasized about murdering Barry Sherman in the past. He had described a graphic fantasy about decapitating his cousin in the Apotex parking lot. Now, Carrie acknowledged that some might consider him a suspect due to the timing of the lawsuit's dismissal, it being just before the murders, and he also lacked a solid alibi for the time the couple was last seen alive. He stated he was at a Cocaine Anonymous meeting, and then he went home to sleep. So, in saying that, it's not an airtight alibi, although he was somewhere, but he could have easily driven by the Shermans' residence and, did something terrible. However, regardless of his statements, the lawsuit, Carrie maintained that he had nothing to do with the murders.
Right. So he's basically saying I could have, I acknowledge that I look guilty, but I'm not.
Exactly. In previous statements by Carrie, he had also said that Barry in the 90s had asked him to set up a hitman to kill Honey.
Well, that just comes out of left field, doesn't it, Becky?
I know. So obviously this is really concerning that he mentioned it and he's looking to clear his name. So Carrie and his lawyer agreed to a polygraph test for CBC, the Fifth Estate program, concerning this issue. And the expert who conducted the test determined that Winter was not being truthful and had failed the test. Carrie then later admitted to have embellishing parts of the story. And then, on his lawyer's advice, he declined to take another lie detector test on the question of whether he killed Barry and Honey. Which,
okay.
I mean, obviously the lawyers can be like, don't do that. I don't care if you're guilty or innocent. Just don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't take that polygraph.
Because I think the reason that this is so concerning is because he brings up this false statement to almost implicate Barry in some way of malicious intent. Maybe to say maybe he is capable of killing his wife, or to just paint Barry in a negative light. It's almost like he's deflecting and trying to take the focus off of himself with that statement.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it comes out that he is lying, it's like, why would you even say that? Why would you try to make Barry look bad at all right now?
Yeah.
What was his point in doing that, if not to try and deflect beady eyes looking in on his, innocence or guilt?
Exactly. Now, we are not saying he's guilty, but these are some questionable choices and statements he has made. And
exactly. Very weird.
They do make him look really sus. Real sus right about now.
Yeah.
All right. So even though these are some of the theories that have been floating around in the media, because of things Carrie himself has said, and Jonathan, their son, there's no proof that either of them are actually involved in killing Barry and Honey.
Now, the one thing I will say that it keeps coming back to me is just the placement of Barry and Honey when they were found. We've talked about this enough about how people are placed or how a scene looks at the end of it all. And I just think that if you're killing someone based on greed, based on revenge or what have you, I don't think it's going to be this well thought out, meticulous thing where you make sure that both the right legs are crossed over the left, that they're placed sitting up in a pool with their necks strung. It seems like revenge and greed are not the motives, at least to me. But I mean, we will see. But I just had to bring that up because for me, that just seems weird in general, how the bodies were found and then thinking about revenge and greed as the motive. To me, they don't match up.
I think that's a pretty interesting, thought for sure. And what kind of would make me lean towards your same theory here, Bev, is the fact that Barry and Honey were placed in the same position as those recycled trash mannequins.
Oh, were they?
Yes. Now,
Huh.
I was trying to do some research on, why would a killer place anyone in any position, right? Now, some of the things are to embarrass people, like that Joanna, where she had that guy's butt in the air in that dress after she killed him, just to embarrassment. So that's one of them. Then sometimes people are positioned in a way that the murder feels like remorse or guilt for killing them.
Like covering their face?
Yeah, stuff like that. Or their hands over their chest, innocent, stuff like that. And this one, I just couldn't really figure out why they would have been placed that way.
Well, I think some also, because I did some research as well with the Joanna case, I think it's also to fulfill sexual fantasies that they can relive it somehow. The image of whatever they portray is fulfills a sexual fantasy, or it can be to convey a message.
Exactly, a message.
Yeah.
Now, with all those options, the one that stands out to me the most is the message, because I would be shocked if this was in any way sexual.
Yeah.
I don't think there was guilt. I think they were on display.
Yeah.
And then I was actually talking to a client about this case, just one of my clients, and her correlation is oh, interesting that they are positioned like those mannequins that are made of trash and recyclables.
Oh my God, what a good point.
Now, we have no idea, but is there a correlation to whoever did this, what they thought of Honey and Barry? Is that
they were trash?
Right? Now, she said that, and I would just, as soon as she said it, I was like, oh my God, I wonder.
What a good point.
Right? But on the flip side, maybe someone just positioned and it was not their intention to even mimic those sculptures. So
right.
I think we are diving into it a lot. However, many sources talk about their body position and these pieces of art.
Right.
So I wonder. So we have talked about several theories, different people that may or may not be involved. But as of today, Bev, the police have not named a single suspect in this case.
No way.
Yes. Although they have made statements that they have identified at least one person of interest. In late 2020, they quietly told reporters that a suspect had emerged, but gave no details. Then on the 4th anniversary of the killings, in December of 2021, Toronto homicide detectives released a grainy security camera video of a lone figure walking through the Sherman neighborhood around the time of the murders. The person was wearing a head covering and walks with a peculiar gait that kicked up their heels on each step. Police said the timing of that person's appearance matched when the couple was likely killed. They urged anyone who recognizes this figure to come forward. So far, the identity of this individual remains unknown, or at least to the public's knowledge.
So this grainy figure is the person of interest.
Yes.
Ugh. That's not great.
It's not great. And I'm also curious, why didn't they release that right away? Unless I'm misunderstanding that it was only on the 4th anniversary. But from what I've read, that seems when it happened. So I'm like, why wouldn't they have done that earlier?
Good question.
Yeah. Now, critics argue the police went from one extreme to the other. A friend of the Shermans, Senator Linda Froome, has said police were too loose-lipped at first, aka the murder-suicide, and then now they're overdoing it in the other direction by almost silence. So if they have any new evidence or any new information, the public has no idea about it. The Toronto Star's editorial board famously wrote that the investigation was badly bungled from the get-go. Indeed, after years of quiet, every new release of information, like the suspect video, makes headlines. But many unanswered questions remain. Detective Sergeant Brandon Price has noted that there are images of thousands of people in the neighborhood, many of whom he wants to rule out as the suspect. And police still ask anyone with information to contact their tip line. For Barry and Honey's children, the impact has been rather devastating. At their parents' funeral, Jonathan Sherman tearfully addressed the crowd. "Our parents never left anyone behind. They were taken from us," he said, reflecting on the loss of the two people who together unlocked the world for the family. In late 2022, the Sherman son Jonathan added $25 million to an existing reward, bringing the total to $35 million for information that would lead to the arrest and conviction of the killer or killers. Their daughter, Alexandra, released a statement. "So far, there has been no justice for them and no closure for me and my family. My heart is broken. My children have lost their grandparents." She even recorded a folk album in an attempt to process her grief and heal in the wake of her parents' violent deaths. Jonathan Sherman echoed the sentiment. He said that justice must be done, not only for the family, but also for the many people whose lives his parents touched. The Sherman children eventually had their parents' house demolished, as it was a symbol of tragedy and loss. Barry and Honey Sherman left a remarkable legacy of generosity, but that legacy is now forever entwined with tragedy. Their story has raised questions in the public mind about justice and policing. Toronto's police department remains methodically reviewing new leads, while the case stays open and active. In the meantime, the Shermans' loved ones and supporters continue to live with the pain of not knowing who was responsible. As one friend lamented, the way police handled the case has been a case of how not to handle a police investigation. The Shermans touched thousands of lives through their philanthropy and business. Those people, along with the family, await answers that have been 8 years, still out of reach. The murder of Barry and Honey Sherman remain Canada's most baffling unsolved killing. Now, what is kind of crazy to me, Bev, is people with money, police tend to take those investigations real serious, right?
Yeah, honestly.
Like, I don't think that should be the case, but it happens.
But it sometimes really is, yeah.
Yeah. And so the fact that they don't have any answers is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that they don't have answers because specifically they did anything wrong. I just think whoever killed Barry and Honey thought about it. And perfect circumstances like doors being open, no one seeing anything, and leaving no evidence behind, they got really lucky.
Yeah. I mean, there's that. Or it could just be a case of like police, they say it's an active case. Like there's probably a lot of leads to look down. Like even if you just think of the theories that were, that you brought up to us, there's a lot to go through. And there's probably a lot of relationships to check out. And just think of how long a case can take to get brought to trial when the case is pretty cut and dry and there's not very many like avenues to go down to look into like possible motives or possible, motives behind someone wanting to kill this person. So I could imagine that a case like this could take a lot longer, is all I'm saying. Like, hopefully, they're still making progress.
Exactly. And
because I do think the family deserves justice, Becky. I really do.
I do. And I think it's just a matter of time before someone slips up or something is found with all those warrants, It's just a matter of time and manpower. And I hope, and I do believe that this case will one day have a resolution. And I hope for everyone that has been affected by this, it does.
Right.
So,
same.
Considering the case is ongoing and active, me and you will continue to keep our eyes peeled for any new revelations about this case and any new evidence that comes out. And the next time that we hear of anything new, we will relay that to everyone who's listening. And for anyone out there, if you have any credible information on the Sherman's death, police are still asking people to come forward. Any little bit helps. There's a $35 million reward, but more importantly, the hope is that someone somewhere knows something that can finally bring this investigation to a close.
Absolutely. I'm just hoping that someone listening to this are the right ears to hear and could potentially have information. But honestly, Becky, this is a pretty gruesome case, and these people lost their lives, and I just can't imagine how it would feel for the families to not have answers.
I couldn't even imagine. Though one thing that always like pulls at my heartstrings, specifically in this case, is just like how giving Barry and Honey were. With like, they were rich as hell, but they gave so much to people. And it was even like reported, Bev, that they would even help their employees who were struggling, you know, and not many companies or business owners will actually go to that like base level of employee to actually help them specifically. So that just is one more example of their generosity and how caring they were, and that they just wanted to make the world a better place. So with that being said, I'm sorry for this great loss and tragedy. And I just thank you, Bev, for being here to hear this case.
Yeah, well, thanks for telling it, Becky, and I love you hugely, and as always, we love you guys hugely.
Exactly.
Until next week.
Till next week.
And just your weekly reminder to download our weekly episodes, follow us on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever streaming platform you listen to us on, and give us a follow on our social medias. You can find us at Luminol on the Wall. Can't wait till next week.